How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Whole Foods and the minimum wage hike. As you all know, Amazon raised their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Amazon owns Whole Foods, so Whole Foods did the same thing because they're under the same umbrella. Now, some people would think, oh, okay, they raised minimum wage. Those that are getting paid low amounts of money, $7.25, $8.50, whatever it is in your particular state. Now they can get a raise. They can get more cash in their pocket. They can spend more in the economy and everything works out perfectly fine. But that's not how things really work in the real world. The main thing you got to key in on is the hourly rate, which means if you have less hours, you get paid less money. Politicians know this. That's why Bernie Sanders and everybody else talk about, oh, if you work 40 hours a week, you shouldn't be getting paid minimum wage. You should be getting paid X amount of dollars. Well, because they know if you work minimum wage, you're not going to get 40 hours. There's no way. Number one, you got to get Obamacare, if I'm not mistaken. That still might be on the books. Number two, you got to get full-time benefits. The most you're going to get on minimum wage money is about 37.5 hours. And that is considered full-time, not 40. But I digress. Whole Foods cut hours after the wage increase. A logical conclusion, because they're like, okay, we can't afford this. If we're paying $7.25 and then it doubles overnight and some to $15, that's just too much for the system to handle. You got to be able to cut that kind of money. You can't afford that. Most companies, when you're talking about businesses that have employees, the biggest expense is payroll. So you're going to try to cut payroll wherever you can. You're going to hire less employees and you'll have them work less hours. And the end result is that they're going to work more in a shorter amount of time. They got to do double the work in half the time. Okay. Now there's a study that says the average hours went from 30 to 21 for part-timers. And for full-timers, it went from 37.5 to 34.5. So everybody's being affected. All the people that were getting a certain amount of money. So some may get a little bit of a bump in their pay. Some may actually take home less money or right around the same. It's a lateral move at best. It doesn't really help. You can't just artificially raise wages like that. It doesn't help. And beyond that, if the floor is way up here, $15, people that have skills and experience that do not warrant this kind of money are not going to be able to get a job at all. The black market is going to be wide open for them. That's why a lot of times in the hood, these low income areas, you got guys selling drugs. They're not making that much money. People think that if you're a dope boy, if you're a drug dealer, you make plenty of money. You know, you're getting caught up on what you see on television from movies and stuff. Scarface, Paid in Full. You seeing guys with mansions and big cars and big chains and jewelry and money. But the average dope boy, the everyday, just run-of-the-mill soldier, 15-year-old, dreadhead, he ain't making that kind of money. If he makes the federal minimum wage is doing good. Most of these guys making like, on average, if you just look at how many hours they work, they're getting paid like $3 an hour. They're not really getting any kind of money. So when you have these very high minimum wages, you're not actually helping those who you say you're helping. You're not helping anybody really, maybe except for the very big companies because they can afford to pay the high minimum wages. Your Walmarts, your Amazons, they got plenty of money so they can eat it. And even they're not going to eat it. They're going to still reduce hours, reduce benefits, all that stuff to give the high wages. Even Amazon itself, aside from Whole Foods, cut out certain benefits that they were given to employees to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. There was, I think, an employee option for stocks that got taken away. Incentive-based pay bonuses got taken away. So you're getting more money in your hourly wage, but are you taking home more money? Is it more, less, the equivalent? How much more do you make on your check? That's what really matters. The per hour revenue and the wage is not important if the hours are not going to be up there. You can be getting paid $1,000 an hour. If you only get 1 hour a month, how much are you really getting paid? So that is the main thing. People don't really understand that. That's why I'm against a minimum wage, period. And if you're going to have one, I mean, it needs to be low. $5, that should be fine. Because here's the thing about it. People say if the wage was $5 an hour minimum, then people will just get paid that. There's a lot of jobs that don't pay minimum wage or anything close to it. You're talking about way above. You got guys making $100 an hour. Some people are on salary. There's a lot of different ways you can get paid that is much more than minimum wage. Even for low skilled jobs, the wage comes from supply, demand, skill. All those things matter. If you go to a place where they're just having some kind of boom in industry, like in Montana with the oil, or in the Dakotas, wherever that is, you got advertisements for people working at McDonald's getting paid $18 an hour, $14 an hour, because there's not enough people there to fill those jobs. Therefore, they have a high demand for individuals to come in and work. That's why the per hour wage is so high. If you get an influx of people that can do the same job, you're going to see the wage go lower and lower because there's less of a demand. There's less of a need for human beings to be in there. Okay. And at a certain point, if you have a high minimum wage, people that can't afford it are going to look at it like, okay, I could pay this employee X amount of money over a 3-year period to come in and work, or I could put money into this machine that'll do the same job for X amount of money over a 3-year period. So then it becomes a math game. Which one costs less? Because when you're talking about restaurants, grocery stores, a lot of these brick and mortar places, they have very thin profit margins. The average restaurant is like a 4% profit margin. That's very low. So they have to cut corners in every place they can. Aside from things like safety, food, things they have to have, they can't cut corners. But when you're talking about payroll, when you're talking about, bonuses, ancillary things that can't be cut, they're going to cut that out. And that's what happens. If you have a very high wage minimum from the federal government, they're going to cut hours and they're going to want you to work harder. And if you are not a skilled employee, if you are a young person, this is your first job, and you can't really cut the mustard when it comes to the workload, they're going to bring in a guy like me. I already have a bunch of years of experience in the restaurant. When I was in high school and college, I'll come in right now and flip burgers for like $20 an hour. When I was in Virginia, there was a fast food spot and a grocery store like within 2 miles of my house. I could walk there every day. Okay. If they were to raise the wage to $20 an hour, $15 an hour, some random stupid number, I would go work in there and I would dominate all the little kids that be in there. Nobody could touch me when it comes to my work ethic, because how could you? If you 15, 16 years old, this is your first job, how are you going to match my skill, my effort level, being 34 years old with plenty of experience already? You can't do it. It's like a little kid trying to play LeBron James in a game of basketball. It's unfair. It's an unfair advantage. The advantage people that have low skills, low education, low experience, the advantage they have is the ability to work for less money. When you take that away, you take away opportunities for people to get into the workforce to begin with. Therefore, they're going to be kind of stunted as they get later in life. Okay. And if they do get a job with that high wage, they're going to have to work harder and end up with not much more money at all, or less than they would under a smaller per hour wage. It's just logic. So, hey, Amazon, Whole Foods, other places on the left coast that have raised wages, and now you're seeing not much more money in your pocket, the same amount of money in your pocket, expensive food items that used to cost much less, because now companies got to pay that money. They got to make it for it some kind of way. So when you go to a Whole Foods, all of a sudden you're buying tapioca for like $2 a thing. Now it's $3 or $2.75. You're going to say, hey, what happened? I'm buying a wild caught Alaskan salmon. It's $8 for however many pounds. Now it's $10 or $9. They might say, oh, it's a seasonal change. We had an accident, one of the boats. Nah, they're making up for the added expense, really a tax from the federal government as it relates to higher minimum wages. So that is pretty much all I got. What say you? Are you surprised that Whole Foods has cut their hours by like 30%, 40%? Part-timers from 30 hours to 21, full-timers from 37.5 to 34.5. Are you surprised? Is it a natural thing that has to happen when you raise wages like that artificially? Do you think it's them being greedy? They're just trying to keep all the money to themselves. They have a big, wide profit margin. It's not like 3% or 4% like everybody else. Maybe it's 20%. Where did these actual numbers even come from when you're talking about minimum wage increase? $15? Why $15? Where does the number come from? I think people that want to fight for a quote unquote higher minimum wage need to actually do some research, get into the numbers game, get into math, get into economics, and understand where wages come from, why they are what they are, how much money people actually have to play around with, credit, get into all of that so you understand why a minimum wage is not a good thing. But whatever your comments are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.